Howdy folks, today we're looking at how to paint Temple Guard from Bastion Miniatures. It's like a conversion kit. So first of all you want to spray your models with a black primer of any sort. In this case I used Citadel Chaos Black. After that we're going to be using Vallejo White just to highlight our models. After we've done the first initial highlight we're going to be moving on to the blue, and that's going to be French blue from Vallejo. Try to do that in a couple of thin layers. I think you'll get a much nicer effect. Once we have done that, we're going to be moving on to our next colour, which is going to be light sea blue from Vallejo. And here we're just doing that colour on any of the sort of soft parts that you'd have. So under the tail, on the belly, under the neck, and on the arms. Here I'm just using some Vallejo black, and I'm putting that on the end of the halberd as well as the shield. So the halberd is going to be black, and the shield we're going to be working on a little bit more by adding some white to it. So we're doing like a white highlight on the shield now, using Vallejo white. And then after we've done our initial highlight on the shield, we're going to be moving on to the next colour, and that colour is going to be fire red. So just be careful with this, take your time with it, you don't want to rush it, you don't want to get any of that red on the nice blue that we've just done. So you could use any of the other reds that are available to you, but I really like fire red. I think it works wonders. So that's the colour, that's my go-to colour that I use. So the base itself, we're using a Citadel colour now, which is going to be Rhinox Hide. That's going to be our first colour that we're using on our Temple Guard. I find it working on all of my 20 models at the same time. Seems to do the job. It makes it a lot easier to do it that way anyway, at least to me. So once that first colour has dried, we're going to be moving on to our second colour, which is Beastie Brown. And here I'm using Vallejo White again, and I'm doing that on a couple of models, just on the feathers. After that's dried, we're moving on to Sun Yellow. And after we've done the Sun Yellow on our models, we're moving on to Escopenna Green from Vallejo. So you're just trying to do the tips of the feathers using this colour. Next we're moving on to our gold, and that's going to be Retributor armour for all of the golden parts on our Temple Guard. For any of the bony parts, that's including the claws and their helmets, we're using Zandri Dust. Yeah, my brushes are getting a little bit bad now, so do ignore them. I still managed to do quite a decent job of it, so this sort of proves once again that you can get a good result even with bad equipment, so to speak. So the tongues, we're painting with Screamer Pink, and the previous colour that we were working on was Abaddon Black. So now I'm just using some Corax White on these feathers. Now you can use Vallejo White, but I think Corax White actually has a nice coverage once you thin it down, so you can even get away with doing just one coat with it. On the next step, I've decided to thin down Agrex Earthshade, and I'm just applying that to all of the bony parts on our model, as well as the tongue and inside the mouth. So we're not moving away from the shades just yet. And here I am using Reichland Flesh Shade, and I'm just applying that to all of the gold parts on our Temple Guard. So here we're doing the same thing as well. There's quite a lot of gold on this model, so just take your time with it. Try not to get it on the blue. So now I am using dry paint from GW, and that's going to be Tyrant Skull, and we're just using that on the skull helmet of our Temple Guard. For the eyes, I've decided to use Avalon Sunset, and that's my go-to colour for the eyes of all my Lizardmen that I'm currently working on. So all of the sort of strings and ropes that are on our Temple Guard, I am using Doomball Brown. And after we've used Doomball Brown, we're just using Tyrant Skull again, and we're dry brushing our base using Tyrant Skull. Now I thought was a good time to apply tufts, so any sort of colour of your choice. In my case, I use the tuft from GW. They're called something like corpse grass or something like that. So working on the gems, we're starting off with corn red. So I decided to move on to a highlight for our shield, and sort of the couple of colours that I used was Retributor Armour and Auric Armour Gold, as well as Liberator Gold. So like we've previously done the feathers on the heads of our models, I'm just using Sun Yellow followed by Escalpena Green, and I'm just applying that to all of the feathers on their halberds. Back to gems, and I'm using Mephiston Red followed by Vermilion from Vallejo. Then we're doing a highlight on the bottom left with Hot Orange, followed by a darker upper right corner. We're using one of the dark browns from GW, and that dark brown Rhinox Hide. Once we've done that, we're using a bit of a Jaquero orange to finish our gem off, as well as doing a white dot in the upper right corner. So moving back to the gold, I'm just using Liberator Gold here, just to highlight any of the gold parts that we're working on. The teeth of our models, we're using Oshapti Bone from GW. And yeah, here is the full result. I'm sort of happy with it. I could carry on working on them more and more, but you know, at what stage, you know, does it become madness where you're just trying to paint a whole squad and it takes you a whole year to paint it? Don't really see the point in that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.